Today, a vision publicly espoused some 7 years ago finds its concrete form here in Ogun State. In a simple ceremony, we will soon be commissioning the first in a series of African quality assurance centers that Afreximbank has committed itself to deliver to our continent. As I competed for the office of president of Afreximbank some 8 years ago, many expected me to focus attention and say much more on the size of loans and the profits the bank could make under my leadership. But I knew that granting loans would be the easy part of the job. Once we were able to unlock the non-tariff barriers that constrained African trade and associated trade finance opportunities. Years in the fields and trenches in Afreximbank had taught me and my colleagues that the issue of standards was a binding constraint to export manufacturing and promoting intra-African trade. Yet, testing, inspection, and certification appeared to receive the least attention across many African countries, contributing to the poor quality infrastructure that we have to overcome if we have to boost intra-African trade, implement AfCFTA, and also boost export manufacturing on this continent. That was why, in my inaugural speech in Cairo in 2015, I placed the issue of standards at the center stage. I said, and I quote, "We will engage in policy advocacy, including support for the creation of critical standards for facilitating intra-African trade," unquote. But my story will not be complete without recognizing the role Mr. Pius Ezigwe, a Nigerian-American businessman based in Maryland, as well as the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, played in realizing the milestone we are celebrating today. Barely a month after taking office as president, I was invited to Washington, D.C. by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce to address its members. We met two requests as we prepared, namely, that they should organize a meeting for us with the U.S. organizations responsible for standards and introduce us to major African ethnic food importers. They did both, and the meetings were very insightful. Mr. Pius Ezigwe turned out to be the largest African ethnic food importer in the East Coast, with volumes at that time in excess of $200 million. He lamented how the lack of credible testing, inspection, and certification facilities were diverting his trade from Africa to Latin America and even Indonesia. When we told him we would change it, that we would do something about it, he looked at us initially in disbelief, and then with an elaborate doubting smile on his face, and said, "If you do it, I'll be your anchor customer." So today, I'm proud to say to Mr. Ezigwe, here it is. It is our turn to ask, where is the anchor customer contract? And more seriously, experiences and frustrations of Mr. Ezigwe are a fragment of a larger national and continental problem. Weak or non-existent infrastructure for testing, inspection, and certification, as well as the multiplicity of trade and quality standards across the continent, remain a bane to the continent's ability to expand and diversify exports and trade among itself. Many African countries can hardly boast of a single world-class quality infrastructure. The consequences have been high rejection rates of value-added agricultural exports from Nigeria and elsewhere across Africa. Standards are established with the goal of providing consumers with high levels of sanitary and health protection. In the European Union, one of the largest export markets for Africa, accounting for almost 25% of exports in 2021. Export conformity is assessed at the border through inspections, and products that do not meet the stipulated standards are denied entry. Failure to meet quality standards, therefore, jeopardizes the export competitiveness of made in Africa products. In recent years, the use by European Union member countries of stricter non-tariff measures, such as measures related to sanitary and phytosanitary standards and technical barriers to trade, has grown in the agri-food and agricultural sectors in an effort to reduce uncertainty over product quality and safety. Although these measures have explicitly no trade objective and are designed to avert sanitary and phytosanitary risks, they remain substantial barriers for many African countries in exporting to the European market. EU food standards enforcement have been made possible by the EU's rapid alert system for food and feed. Through this system, the EU receives and sends notifications about violations of feed and food safety standards by both the EU and third countries. According to the annual reports issued by this agency, the number of product recalls from European countries and the number of border rejections affecting African exports grew rapidly between 2000 and 2021, increasing from 67 cases to 338 cases annually. And looking at the US market, the country sets eligibility criteria to its market access based on conformity with the import treatment requirements. According to a report issued by the World Trade Organization in 2019, only 24 African countries are eligible for fruits imports into the US, while 15 African countries are eligible for vegetable imports. Rejections at the border is very costly, and it affects export earnings as export goods are often destroyed by the importing country. An estimate of about $700 million worth of export products from Africa is rejected and lost each year due to contamination by aflatoxin, according to the Partnership for Aflatoxin Control in Africa. These rejection rates demonstrate both the lack of knowledge on export market standards and the failure of African countries to conduct conformity assessment prior to export. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our approach at Afreximbank is to find novel solutions to the challenges to the promotion and facilitation of African trade. It is unacceptable that Africans have to cut goods thousands of miles into other countries to test and certify them for the international market. It is unacceptable that we resort to importing goods from elsewhere because we cannot vouch for the quality of those produced within Africa. Afreximbank is contributing towards resolving the problem in many ways. In Nigeria, for instance, We are working with the UNDP towards the adoption of a food safety bill. And we thank Senator Kerry for championing this on our behalf as a member's bill. We understand that we received a present yesterday because the bill passed the second reading yesterday at the Senate. We also advocated for the promulgation of a national quality policy, which has now been done. We thank His Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, for his leadership in this area. Many thanks to Honorable Minister of Trade, Otumba Adebayo, for helping us in championing this at the cabinet level. We also actively engage in Nigeria Standards Organization and NAFDAC, who are doing a fantastic job despite severe resource constraints. We look forward to engaging with them more actively with this facility located here. Afreximbank, through its industrialization and trade facilitation initiative, is also working with various stakeholders, such as the African Organization for Standardization, in harmonizing standards to be adopted by African countries, facilitating cross-border trade under the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So far, the bank, through grant support and also contributory grant support from the Arab Africa Trade Bridges, which I chair, working with the African Regional Standard Organization, has harmonized more than 300 standards in the automotive sector, as well as medical and pharmaceuticals. We are now working on standards for textiles, clothing, and leather. Harmonization of standards will also facilitate trade under the AFCFTA because one African standard replaces 55 national standards, 55 test certificates, and 55 national inspections. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, harmonizing the standards is one thing, and testing for conformity is another. That's why Afreximbank made the bold move of leading the way in creating state-of-the-art quality infrastructure across Africa under the brand name of Africa Quality Assurance Centers. These centers in Ogun State is the first in a series of projects underway in Nigeria and across the continent of Africa. The Africa Quality Assurance Center, fitted with cutting-edge technologies for product testing, inspection, and certification, and operated by internationally reputable institution, the Bureau Veritas, in this case, will rapidly restore global confidence in products originating from Nigeria and Africa in general. This particular facility in Nigeria will help neighboring countries in West and Central Africa to boost exports and have unrestrained access to global and regional markets because they can bring their goods to this facility for testing instead of sending them to Asia and Europe. Within Nigeria, the center will also help raise the bar in the application of high and acceptable standards in the production of agricultural products, food, and other value-added goods or intermediate raw materials such as fertilizers, meant for both domestic and foreign markets. It will also help to establish high standards for product packaging and branding and attract investments in these spin-off activities. And these activities will help to improve the quality of life of our people, create jobs, promote exports and export diversification in Nigeria and Africa, and improve the global competitiveness of our exports. Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the African Quality Center here in Ogun State and the many others we plan to develop in other parts of Nigeria are part of the bank's support to the federal and state government efforts under the auspices of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, to end the rejection of Nigerian-made products on the international market. We commend the government's effort to launch the National Quality Infrastructure Project to support the improvement and the establishment of missing standards and quality control bodies, as well as ongoing efforts to promote the passage, as I mentioned earlier, the Food Safety Bill. We hope that following the approval in Senate, the House of Assembly, the House of Representatives will also quickly approve so that this can become law through the signature by His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari. We are able to deliver on this impactful project because the federal and state governments believed in it. We would therefore like to thank His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari and his government for their unwavering support towards the development of this project. You can see the evidence from the high representation officials from the federal government who are here. And without any equivocation, the Executive Governor of Ogun State, His Excellency Governor Abiodun, bought into the concept and quickly removed all obstacles to a quick realization of this project. We are pleased that his government decided to site the Ogun Cargo Airport as well as the agro-industrial park that Arise Industrial Park Company, investee company of Afreximbank and AFC, are developing near this facility. We expect that a combination of these facilities will very soon make Ogun State the export hub for Nigeria. Special thanks to government officials at the time this land was also allocated for their support that also made this possible. His Excellency President Olusegun Obasanjo Baba stood by us like a stalwart, clearing obstacles and encouraging us all through the process. Without him, perhaps this project wouldn't have happened. So we thank him immensely. We would like to show our appreciation to our technical partners, Bureau Veritas. It was important for the bank to collaborate with a reputable player, knowledgeable player in the conformity assessment industry to serve as a technical partner for the Quality Assurance Center here in Ogun State and others across Nigeria and indeed Africa. Throughout the years, Bureau Veritas has demonstrated strong credentials both globally and in Africa. Mr. Rizzo mentioned and spoke lucidly about all the things they are doing. We also thank our contractors and consultants who supported us and completed this project in record time. We hope that as we implement projects elsewhere, we can continue to count on their support. Please allow me now to thank everyone who, despite other pressing engagements, created the time to be here with us. I would also like to thank all of you who have contributed and continue to contribute in diverse ways to make this event a success. I thank you for your attention.